Hey everybody, today's episode of This Is Only a Test was brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the easiest way to create a beautiful website, blog, or online store for you and your ideas. Squarespace features an elegant interface, beautiful templates, and incredible 24/7 customer support. So start building your website today at squarespace.com. And because we love you guys and we really appreciate you guys, please use the offer code TEST, like this podcast name, at checkout to get 10% off your first order with Squarespace. Squarespace, build it beautiful. And on with the show. Hey, let's start a show for Thursday, December 3rd, 2015. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. Hello and welcome, everyone. I believe that is a successful launch. After many weeks of maybe missteps, I want to introduce you to our launch team. We have Kishore Hari, our senior science correspondent.
Hello.
And also Jeremy Williams, our senior Arduino correspondent, I guess. I don't know.
You're really
what would you like?
That would have been so cool like 3 or 4 years ago. Thank you.
Oh, what would you like to be?
I'm happy just being here.
Special guest, Jeremy Williams.
Thank you.
And
Yeah,
regular
don't
student
tie him
on the
to a
podcast.
platform.
No, don't.
No, absolutely.
label me,
yeah,
man.
no labels. You guys are our flight team, and I believe we had a successful launch. Right? Everything. Gotta check. Okay, recording here. I think we're streaming. Yeah, everything sounds good.
This is getting impressive in terms of the quality over here.
Well, I don't know. Impressive. Sufficient.
Sufficient.
I had
That's the bar for tested.
I had an encounter yesterday. I was at the airport flying back from Burbank after a long shoot day, and just sitting at the airport reading on my phone, and then someone walks up with headphones on and says, "This is weird. I'm listening to you right now." And he said,
Did you hit the Inception music immediately?
I didn't. I couldn't cue it up in time, and so I was like, "Oh, cool." But in my head, I'm like, "Okay." Statistically speaking, this person probably is listening to Still Entitled, because more people listen to Still Entitled than This Is Only a Test. So I'm like, oh, great. Yeah, thanks for listening. We really appreciate it. And then he goes, oh, have a safe, I think he was on the same flight as me. And he said, have a safe flight. Let's hope the rocket doesn't blow up next time. And then it took me a second. I'm like, that's a weird thing for someone to say to you as you're about to get on a flight.
Yes.
But then I realized he was talking about the podcast.
The end of the one where the thing blew up?
Well, no, as our every podcast is a rocket launch. for
Oh,
us.
right
And
on.
so he goes, let's hope the rocket doesn't blow up next time. And I'm like, oh, okay. So
well, it's good to know.
that is the thing I'm making now.
It's good to know that you're popular in the Burbank airport.
It's a great place to be popular. I love that airport. It's so easy to get through. Burbank to Oakland is like my favorite route now.
The thing is, he came up and said hi to you. There's got to be 10 people for every guy that comes up to you that doesn't come up. You know, you are recognized
Two people.
more
Two
than
to
you
one.
know. I
2 to
bet.
1.
I bet you are. You are
gotta
watched by many people.
You've been approached
I was in La Taqueria and one of the tested audience came up and said hi to me.
Nice.
by recognizing your voice or by watching.
No, they
this
saw me
video?
when they were walking by the video.
Walking by the.
I'm sorry,
Taqueria.
walking by the La Taqueria.
I was at a Futurama event last year during a comedy festival, and I asked a question, and somebody recognized my voice
From a podcast?
from my
Wow.
science podcast.
Awesome.
So people actually do listen to these things.
That's kind of scary. How are you guys doing in this post-Thanksgiving and Black Friday, Cyber Monday week? I want to hear about
You wanna
your
hear about me?
exploits. This is primarily the reason you are here on this podcast
That
this
I'm
week.
alive.
Yes. So, Jeremy, I know you weren't here last week. You were in East Coast?
Virginia.
Virginia.
Yep.
and
I was busy getting deathly ill.
Aw.
Thanksgiving night is a blur to me. I was out of commission for 24 hours after that, and then for many days afterwards, I was not back to normal. But I'm fine now.
That's good.
Yes.
Good. And
I experienced, Thanksgiving as I always do, which is away from Black Friday at a place with my family, where we don't go shopping. So I just get this stuff online. So I'm more of a Cyber Monday kind of guy.
Right. So I take it you didn't listen to last week's podcast. We talked at length with Kishore about his obsession with Black Friday.
I'm obsessed. I do most of my shopping online too, but I go out, and I go out in a very hardcore way, like all night.
Really?
Like, and
with an itinerary.
So we actually, I survived, but it wasn't as epic as I wanted it to be. We actually had to take a nap.
Not as epic due to the planning and energy, or due to the Black Friday being less of a big deal overall.
So I went to pick up, my friend actually flew in from Southern California for us to go out to Black Friday together.
That's not of savings.
No, well, he ended up having like extra credit from a flight and just came up. It was just an excuse for us to hang out. But on the way to the airport, the stores were opening earlier this year. They opened at 6 p.m. And I'm like, oh, I'll just take a flyer, and I had just finished Thanksgiving dinner, dropped my family back home, and I just was on my way to the airport, and I was like a half hour ahead. So I'm like, oh, I'll just pull into like Office Max and Best Buy and check it out. Office Max was dead. I was there were more employees in the store than there were people.
At 6 p.m.
It was like 7:30 on Thursday night.
Doors had already opened. No busting of the doors.
No, there was just no one there.
That's sad.
It was a little sad. Best Buy was full, but I just walked around and like I was in and out in like 15, 20 minutes. And that was my experience at a lot of places on Thursday night until I made a terrifying mistake.
What was the mistake?
So our late night plans were to go to an outlet mall and do some clothes shopping. That was a mistake. And I knew I was in trouble as I was going down the highway, and Google was like, take this exit now. And I'm like, wow, we're like 2 exits away from where it is. And it's like, no, it'll save you like 20 minutes. And I was like, uh-oh, because it is like 12:30 at this point. And I get there, and there's basically like an hour line for parking, just to park at the place.
Is that where that's where the deals were?
I don't think so.
Oh.
Wait, we ended up parking across the highway at a Target and walking over an overpass in the middle of the night to go to this outlet mall.
Is this Gilroy?
It's the one in Livermore, which has all these like designer brands and stuff. And it was terrible. It was terrible. There was like an hour and a half line to get into Kate Spade, which is some sort of store. I don't know. I don't know anything about what that store is, but I know there was an hour and a half line to get in. And so that's where people were. And I didn't I ended up leaving around like 2 or 3 in the morning. But that like zapped all my energy.
That's the thing they've documented. If you had the GoPro strapped to your chest with a stabilizing gimbal to hyperlapse your Black Friday midnight 3 a.m. experience, that would have been the
my
thing.
experience in the technology stores were all pretty good. I was at Fry's at like 8 in the morning after taking a nap, and it was.
So you guys slept in the car?
No, I actually went home and slept in a bed for a couple hours, and then we were back at Fry's at like 8, 9 in the morning. It was not so bad there.
I think that's indicative of the trends of where people are shopping and what people still want to go to brick and mortar stores for. In terms
there is a big generational gap, though.
Yes.
I will say, like the people at brick and mortar were not necessarily people I associate with early adopters of tech. Let's just say.
And for technology, if you're going to buy a hard drive, if you're going to buy even a TV, a lot of people are buying them and have been for a long time buying them online, but also increasingly on their phones. This year, lots of reports saying, Amazon had a deal where if you're a first-time user of their mobile app, you can get $5 off. So a lot of people just on their phones at Thanksgiving dinner already shopping. They didn't need to go out. And then for the stores that people do want to go to and see stuff in person, clothing makes a lot of sense because you want to see it in person, see how it fits, try it on. And I think for the companies, the brick and mortar stores, even the mom and pop shops who have tech gear that people most often buy online, the best time to do deals is actually like closer to Christmas when people can't expect shipping to be as reliable.
It was pretty impressive, the online experience. I've had previous online experiences where like around this time, like sites will crash. I think there's a lot of reliability. I think I saw a report, there were record sales, over $3 billion spent between Black Friday and Cyber Monday. What's weird to me is how many people are buying on their mobile devices now. Because that's not usually how I purchase electronics. Do you purchase electronics on your mobile device?
Sure, why not?
I do it all the
You know,
time.
the Amazon app is as easy as any other way to buy things on Amazon.
I don't know. I guess when I whip out my credit card, I'm always like used to just sitting in my like at my desktop.
Well, Apple Pay and things that makes
Yeah.
it so much
Yeah, it
easier
does.
now.
In fact, yeah, buying things from the Apple Store, that's if you're buying a phone on release night, that's the fastest, easiest way to get in line.
I think Amazon probably has the best mobile app shopping experience right now in terms of a big retailer, online retailer. A lot of times the problem is like PayPal. If you're buying from smaller shops on Etsy shops, going through the PayPal intermediary and then needing to log on there,
Yeah.
like those mobile experiences, they're better now, but they're not nearly as seamless as the put your thumb on the
Nope.
the home button and then the purchase is confirmed and made.
Because I saw it was like 26% of those purchases were made on mobile devices this year.
yeah.
That's an incredible percentage.
Does that include tablets?
I
Yeah.
believe so. Yeah, it must include tablets. And the Amazon tablet app. I mean, tablet apps for shopping they're so powerful. I mean, that's I think what Apple was banking on for Apple TV, and why a bunch of their launch apps for Apple TV were shopping apps, because they want people to shop with Siri, shop on the Apple TV, search with Siri, and on the big screen make a purchase, check out items. It's like shop at home, except for the modern age. Now, Siri or Apple TV does not have Touch ID on the remote, so maybe that's something that would come in the future if shopping continues to be a big
I
trend.
always hear that the typing experience on the Apple TV is great.
It's garbage. It's so garbage. Still no dictation.
It's a total mess up. I mean, have you looked at the movie browsing recently? They put a full screen inside out graphic behind everything inside the movies app, so that when you go to type, the letters are on top of this graphic, and you can't even see them anymore.
Wow.
It's just like a design flaw. It looks like an error.
Right.
I
It
don't
should
know.
be black or should have shadows.
Yeah, I mean,
or
there needs to be contrast. The thing needs to be rethought. I'm sure it will be.
so
I can't wait for Roku's 404 page as their background graphic for typing in their stuff.
What did you guys buy, if anything, over the weekend? Let's share the guilty purchases.
I didn't buy anything.
Nothing.
Not a thing.
Wow, that's
Well,
admirable.
I mean, I took a look at the deals and I said, I don't need any of these things.
Yeah.
Was there a deal that caught your eye?
I think because of the rise of the deal filtering sites, the great like services, like you can check Wirecutter and Gizmodo and Engadget, and they'll point out the 50 or so. Here's the things that are at their lowest price
Those aren't
ever.
the best deal sites.
And if you go through those, I also agree. Like nothing really jumped out.
Yeah.
I did buy. I think about two things. I bought memory is always like a really great thing to buy. SD cards. So I got like a 32 gig SD card for like $15 or something, or even real cheap, and then a 5 terabyte hard drive for like $115. And
That's pretty good.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm pretty good on those things right now. I would like to get an Amazon Echo for people for the holiday, because I do think it's like the standout product of the year that some people still don't own.
That's what I
both
got.
you guys.
And
That's what I got on Black Friday.
they were
And-
$30 off. Thought about it, but I didn't get one.
Oh, so the way I got an Echo is hilarious. So Amazon started selling Echoes at other brick and mortar stores like Staples and Bed Bath & Beyond and all these other places, and you could stack coupons at those stores to get money off. So I got an Echo for $100
Oh, wow.
at Bed Bath & Beyond.
That's as good as it gets.
As opposed to where at Amazon where it's $150. So
Yeah.
that's the one I'm most excited about. My wife did not want me to get that. So
Well, for me, it would be a gift to give to somebody.
yeah,
You don't have one yet.
I don't have one. I've wanted one ever since I saw the tested review come out. I was really skeptical at first, but I'm starting home automation too. So I just got Smart Things a month or so ago. So I'm really excited about the tie-in.
What else did I get? I feel like those are the only things.
Oh,
I
I
bought.
got so much stuff. It's
All right,
ridiculous.
let's share more. What else?
So
what else?
in the electronics world, I got a lot of peripherals for my new gaming PC.
Yep.
So I got keyboard, mouse, like I got a second monitor. I got all of those things. I got a couple like crappy drones for my kid to play with, like a couple sub $40 ones.
Okay.
I got basically every Mac adapter known to man because I'm giving a ton of presentations in the next few months. So I got a lot of peripheral stuff. And then I started going nuts on sort of educational products for family. That's my big thing. My most proud purchase, I got a spirograph for my son. You remember spirographs?
No.
Yeah, I 3D printed a spirograph set.
Oh,
wow.
I remember that. You put the pencil and then you draw. And, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the toy. I got a bunch of toys. My kid is super into Lego right now, this specific character set, Ninjago. So I got a bunch of stuff from that sort of character realm. And then I got some high-tech socks for myself.
High-tech socks?
Well, they're engineered for my comfort. I got ones that have like arch support built into the socks. And then they were like, seamless, that I was very much in line for. So I got a lot of little stuff that is going to add up to a lot of dollars. So,
I mean, that's how they get you. The holiday season.
Now I know this new materialistic side to Kishore.
Yeah.
I am super into this kind of stuff. And it doesn't come out at all in any of my other stuff because I'm into like science and education and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Now, did you guys buy a Christmas tree?
We're thinking of going imitation this year. What do you call them? Not imitation, but
Oh, fake tree.
Yeah.
They're expensive.
well, yeah,
The
but they
good fake
last
trees.
forever. And
They do.
Pine needles don't fall.
Well, I don't.
The lights are the thing that wear out
Can't
if
you-
you get a pre-lit tree.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Don't get the pre-lit tree.
No, I was thinking we just light it ourselves and leave the lights on it.
I did the math. I mean, a good Christmas tree. They're expensive in San Francisco. You can go to Home Depot and buy one for like $60, like a good 6.5 foot tall tree, 7 foot tall tree. But if you go to those specialty like the pop up tree shops where the pumpkin patch turns into
Spend
a
twice
tree
that.
farm.
Only in San Francisco
In
do we
San
have pop-up tree shops.
That's
I
not
know.
true. No.
No, but only do we call it that.
Oh, right.
Right. the pop up tree shop, they've been around forever. You could drive by 19th Avenue and Sloan, and it's like, oh, that empty lot will turn into a magical tree forest come Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah.
There's about a month between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I think the best time to buy a tree is right after Thanksgiving. I think before Thanksgiving, too eager. It's like playing Christmas music in the mall in July. You're not supposed to do it. People do it anyway.
You think you can keep a tree alive for a month?
I did it last year. Last year was the
can't do it?
first time we bought a tree, and they were expensive. Like it's $100 for about a 6.5 foot tall tree
At the pop-ups?
at the pop ups.
Yeah.
And so if you're talking about the leasing price per day, it's like $3, $3.50 a day.
Have you ever done the cut your own down
No,
where you go out?
I was not raised on a tree farm.
Does Norm look like he's ever cut down a tree?
I have cut down a tree, small trees, in Boy Scouts, but I've never cut down my own Christmas tree.
I see.
I'm very much in the fake tree camp. We have a tree at my mom's house that's older than me.
Wow.
And it's literally, I had my mom write it into the will that I get it. Because it's like, it means so much to me. Like one year we went back and there was a different tree up and I packed it up and put up the old tree.
Wow.
Because it's like our Charlie Brown tree.
Yeah.
And it means a lot to me. And so I've been, indoctrinated on the fake tree my whole life. So
Fake tree technology has also vastly improved.
Tell
over the
me about
past 30
this.
years.
I didn't know about there was any technology.
The density of the branches, the sturdiness of the branches, one of the risks you take when you buy a real tree, having now just bought the second tree. Last year we got one that was, the branches were not strong enough. So while it has a great silhouette in the farm, when you bring it home and you put all your ornaments on it, it droops a little bit. So you want you want good density, unevenness. So it's like a video game. Like if you zoom out and put it in terms you can understand, Jeremy.
Thank you.
When you zoom out a video game, you see that the textures on the ground were all repeating, and up close it looked fine, but you can see that it was just lazy.
It's just tiled.
It's just tiled textures. You don't want the tree far away or even up close to look like it's just tiled branches.
Yeah.
It needs a little bit of chaos in there.
Thank you.
So, but they can be like $300 for a fake tree. It's weird. I agree
Really?
Yeah, they can be $300. I mean, if you're talking about spending $50 to $100 for a real tree every year, and this is something that's supposed to last you maybe a generation, something to pass on to your children, to put in your will, just like Kishore, then $300 maybe not the worst investment. But you do save on having to buy a tree stand, for a live tree. You don't have to water it. And,
Yep.
I think the cleanup
branches.
of the real tree is my complaint.
But yeah, after a
The-
month, it's a problem.
You mean the regular cleanup, every daily cleanup?
The pine needles haven't
Pine
fallen
needles.
to the
Oh,
ground.
I used to use the Dyson. I used the suck. And
The Dyson suck?
I call it the suck. The handheld vacuum
Huh.
cleaner. And,
Huh.
And then do you just toss your tree out onto the
I
sidewalk?
literally
during-
toss it
No,
out the window.
There's a day.
Yeah,
where
there's
the
a day
ci-
for the pickup.
The city picks them up.
I take my car out of the garage and toss it out the window, and all the pine needles go on the garage, and it's fine. The weather takes care of it, and it gets rolled onto the sidewalk, and then it disappears. Then the tree fairies take it away.
You know, I was feeling really bad about my Black Friday materialism. Now I feel less bad.
Why?
The trees are great.
The tree fairies come and take this thing away.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they recycle them, I think. You know, most of the trees I think are like grown in Oregon, I want to say.
Is that right?
I believe so. And they like the whole tree farm industry, it's huge. Like there are people who own tons and tons, hundreds of acres of land and invest in just building, selling trees. And it's a huge investment. I'm sure Will could tell us more about this.
There's actually Uber for Christmas trees in Southern California where you can rent a tree for the holiday season and then they replant it.
Oh, okay. That seems a little like okay. That's
Wow.
that's a good idea.
That is crunchy.
Yeah, it's crunchy.
Man.
Well, I know you went out to shop Kishore and you went had your expedition, your adventure, but in the near future, for people like Jeremy and I who just like buying on Amazon, we won't even have to leave our homes ever because Amazon will just fly the products to us. Did you guys see the Prime Air video that was released over the weekend?
No.
I did. I thought it was fake when I first saw it.
What is it?
This is the second one. So Amazon announced that they would be experimenting with unmanned aerial vehicles, unmanned aerial systems, UAS systems, drones for delivering packages, possibly in rural areas where
Like farm country.
farm country where roads are bad or small packages, and they
Fewer
showed-
obstructions. It's safer to do that.
Absolutely, and fewer regulations. You're not flying over people. It's a little safer. And the video they first released, I believe it was earlier this year, was just like your standard quadcopter.
Yeah.
And it was, it looked like your four-rotor.
It wasn't a
quad.
Phantom. I mean, it was it was hefty.
A little bigger, but
Yeah.
still kind of. I would not trust that to be. I don't know how that would be commercialized in a mass or scaled up.
Okay.
They released a second video, so they're still committed to it, and it's still in their Prime Air. I think you go to Amazon.com/Prime Air to see the video, and they got who was it? It wasn't Larry David. They got Jeremy Clarkson. That's who it was. Oh my God, they got
Really?
Jeremy Clarkson, who didn't.
The show is going on to Amazon.
Oh, it's Amazon, not Netflix. That's okay. So Jeremy Clarkson, part of the Amazon family now, because his new version of Top Gear, him and his two buddies,
Don't worry.
Hammond and Captain Slow.
To be a producer on that show.
Oh my God, all that money to spend. And he did a promo for Prime Air where he talked about what if you wanted to buy a pair of Pumas, and here's how the Amazon's going to deliver it to you in the future. They have a new drone that they were going to use that they've prototyped, and it's a VTOL. It lifts up and then flies, much like Google's their farming drone system, which actually isn't. It's still VTOL, but the Google one actually launches.
That one you saw at Maker Faire, and
Yeah.
there's a good video that tested it on it. This looks like a flatbed cart with like wings embedded in it,
Yeah.
and like propellers.
It looks
embedded in it.
industrial.
Yeah.
Which is something it looks sturdy, and their video. I think the video they shot from the drone was actually from like a test flight, and then they had some like CG like overlaid footage of what the drone vision is. It spots your landing site. You place an Amazon like basically a fiduciary marker on the ground, and then it locks in on that. There's supposed to be a guidance and avoidance systems, so it can see even moving objects in the sky like birds and avoid those. And it has like a 15-mile, I want to say, range. So that's a pretty good distance.
How big is it? Is it humongous?
It looks pretty big.
It looks pretty big.
Wow. Okay, so now I see how it dropped a box
It
on
dropped
the
a
ground,
box.
and
Like it poops out that box.
until it
deploys.
It's not like holding the box on top. It's
No.
in a cargo bay.
Yeah.
And now that I see how big the box is, that's a humongous plane.
Yes. Yeah.
What I don't understand is, so because of the range, let's say it's like 15, 20 miles, like you said. We live in a Prime Now sort of service area, which is an hour delivery window for a lot of the products that you would buy. The drone delivery is like a half hour is what they're sort of projecting out to. Like that's not much of a savings to me.
But is it Isn't it so that they can rule out the middleman and just deliver their own packages and not have to employ UPS, FedEx, USPS?
I'm sure that there's advantages to Amazon
Yeah.
on the business side, but from a customer experience standpoint,
I don't know if rulers have Prime now. You know what I mean?
but with that service range, it's going to have to be really close to the
Yeah.
warehousing areas. Which, if you're close to the warehousing areas, those seem like places that you would have Prime Now available.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yep. I mean, it's going to happen. I think they're still working out the regulation stuff. Amazon has the money to spend, experiment with it. No one else. I mean, there are smaller companies, but no one else at that high level is experimenting with this, or has a maybe a need for it. I think it really is jumping maybe too far ahead because there seems to be Amazon has big warehouses, but there's also talk of Amazon maybe buying up local smaller shops, like when Sprint stores, or Radio Shacks, and using them as distribution centers. And so it's there's gonna be a lot of steps in between their big warehouse system, robotic run warehouse system they have now, to the last mile.
I went to Radio Shack on Black Friday. That was a sad experience.
Empty?
Oh yeah.
It just like no inventory either.
Oh.
A tier for Radio Shack.
Oh, that's a little sad. So some other news. I know you got some toys for your kids,
Mhm.
and both of you have kids. Do you guys have any toys that are internet connected?
I do. So I'm going to give you a sort of a caveat on this. My wife works for one of those companies.
Oh,
Not the company
interesting.
that you're about to talk about, but the larger competitor to them.
Interesting. So a big story
So I
that
have
came out
some
this
things
week.
to say.
Yeah,
about it.
Motherboard, Vice's technology site, broke the story about VTech, which is a toy maker that has been pretty successful. I want to say they're based in China, and they sell what was the exact toy?
They sell like basically like electronics for young kids, and they're usually in the frame of education, and they scale from basically like tablet type experiences with real functional tablets down to like physical toys like fake cell phones and stuff
Mhm.
like that.
I got my kids a VTech smartwatch. It's
Ah.
like I don't know, last Christmas it was maybe $80, $90. So it wasn't terribly cheap, but for a smartwatch, it didn't seem very expensive either, but it wasn't internet connected. So the battery lasts forever. There's no Wi-Fi on it, but you can play games, you can shoot video, you can take pictures with it, you can record your voice, and you can do little overlay things. I thought it was a pretty cool device, and they're still using it today.
Well, this story is going to be scary then.
Hit me.
Well, a hacker has reported they got access to VTech's databases and
Mhm.
pulled, 5 million photos and information from 5 million families, including photos of children and parents and names.
How'd
And-
they get all these photos? Why were there photos on
So
their databases?
this is the
Very good
question. VTech was storing these pictures for some reason, which makes no sense to me, which is kind of like the terrifying thing.
Pictures
what-
taken on consumer devices at home.
Correct.
Yeah.
Is that
Yikes.
part of, because not having used these toys, was that part of the
There's no connection.
user process?
Well, there's no connection on
No,
the
with
watch,
the
but
watch,
there's like the tablets are connected because usually you can go to like the VTech like learning store, like they have a version of the app store. But one of the things they sell with these products, especially the tablets, is safety. That you can't go to the bad internet. Like you can't browse out of their sort of system, that you can only download that kind of content. But the fact that they were storing that information not locally and on the cloud is really, or on their servers, excuse me, it seems really bizarre to me. And as a parent, it freaked me out because we use a lot of those kinds of devices at home. Like my kid has had a Leap Pad, for a long time, and the safety and the way they hacked it was a SQL injection. It was like
Wow.
old school, like not complicated in terms of the hack. But I just don't understand why they store that information on a VTech server.
And it's brought up a lot of fears of, like, there's an emerging category of connected toys. You don't think of, when you think of 3 years ago, it's only the high-end devices that had this type of functionality and connectivity and always on. But as we see this year, a ton of like home security devices are being on the market now, being flooded with security cameras. You can have that streamed to their servers. We don't know what exactly these companies are storing or how secure they are. And then there are a lot of like kid monitoring devices that also go through cloud services. So you can have parent-facing devices to monitor kids, but also kid-facing devices. There's also a company called Toy Talk, and I think they work with Mattel. They're actually a San Francisco-based company founded by some ex-Pixar employees. And one of their first products, I believe, was like an iPad app that you pair with a toy. So you have an app that you hold next to the teddy bear, and then allows the kid to have a conversation with the teddy bear because there's voice recognition and there's a big database of conversation. So there's an AI tied to it and a database of scripts. They released this holiday a Barbie that has that functionality. So it's a IOC, like internet connected, internet IoT Barbie with a like Marvel chip inside, connects to the Wi-Fi. The kid holds a Barbie, talks to it. The voice sample gets sent up to the servers, understood, and then the Barbie talks back to you.
Yeah. The chips are so cheap now. The question is not like, can we get things online? It's what do we do if we can, It's like, how do we add functionality to it?
Are you freaked out by this at all
Software.
as a parent that, your kids use these kinds of devices?
I don't know. I'm not the best person to ask about that because I've embraced Big Brother in my own world, and I haven't given my kids over to the internet, but I'm not terribly frightened by it. I'm pretty careful about their online connectivity though, so I monitor that. I found out that my 8-year-old son, had added a friend on his PS4 account, and that freaked me out. So I like shut that down, and I said, "No more friends for you, son."
No more online friends.
Who is this guy,
yeah.
Will Smith, you're friends with
exactly.
PS4?
No, I mean, he knew my son knew how old the other guy was. That was the weird thing too.
No.
It's like he had shared that information with my son. So I turned that off, and I turned off like the chat and Rocket Arena for him, things like that, because that gets pretty gruesome. But they don't have any toys where there is any cloud. I guess they have iPads, but I guess I trust Apple to some degree. So I don't know. I guess I monitor that. But if they had these things and this happened, I wouldn't be terribly freaked out.
So I'm marginally freaked out because you're talking about the real internet.
Yes.
And like the real internet, like I'll be putting like safeguards in for my son. These devices sell
It's supposed to be a
security.
walled garden. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what freaks me out because some of the products actually potentially contain location data as well as the pictures.
Yep.
That freaks me out and these products are for like 3 to 8-year-olds.
Exactly. And a lot of times the parents, they see the functionality, but they might not be as savvy as you guys and not know that, this data is actually being stored somewhere or how it actually works.
I imagine
it's just a cool feature.
I imagine your priority in keeping your kids on these safeguarded devices is to guard them from the real internet.
Correct.
And that was never breached. Like they never got access to YouPorn or whatever. So that's a good thing. The fact that these other people now have pictures of your kids and know where they live, I mean, yes, that's uncomfortable, but
It's terrifying.
I'm not worried
why?
about.
I mean, there's a million people who probably know where your kids live, who just happen to see you walking through the neighborhood and watch you walk into your
I'm
house.
not worried about it from like a pure like malevolent standpoint, like somebody's gonna come to our house kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm more freaked out about it because like one of the selling points for me to purchase this device is the walled garden, and like the erosion of that for my 4-year-old. It like kind of just freaks me out about when I have to start education about electronic devices and privacy for him.
Yeah.
He can't make any of those choices, and he won't be able to for a really long time. And so it's not so much that I'm worried about outcomes. It's more unsettling.
Yes, I agree with you. It is unsettling.
So-
My son brought home a URL that he'd written down on paper, which was this like a real URL that's like long. You know, it was like this weird domain, like y2g4.com/ and then it had this weird, array of letters followed by a question mark, et cetera, et cetera. And then he had instructions for like click menu and then click view source. And it was all to get a Clash of Clans hack
Oh my god.
of some kind. And I said, no. And I had to explain to him, no, you're not going to hack anything. Someone's going to hack you. This URL will put something on our computer that allows them to use it.
Yeah,
And so,
gotta teach them about phishing early.
so exactly. So I mean, we had a conversation about that, but not until I found this cryptic, scrawled URL that he.
That Clash of Clans so appealing. So, but like Toy Talk and some of these other companies, like Toy Talk specifically, has announced a bug bounty. They're working with researchers and hackers, and hackers isn't a bad thing. I mean, these people, a lot of people the people go to DEF CON, for example, they want to bring out awareness of these security concerns. But the big concern is that because the tech and the innovation is moving at such a quick pace, and now reaching not only our devices but also the children's devices, that there's no process in place for oversight or for some kind of preventative measure. Like Toy Talk and Barbie and Mattel were happy enough with the security protocols they put in place and released the product, but there was no one looked at it and said, okay, these XYZ things need to be fixed until it's already out on the market, and then they're starting to work with the hackers. So it's just like the beginning of like we're gonna see this everywhere. This is just
As more things come online.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. There's like a hack of the month now.
Yep. And I just want to touch this Mac touchscreen. We use a soundboard application here, and every time I see it, I want to touch the screen.
If you put it on that, would it work?
It only is a Mac application.
Huh.
Yeah. Maybe there's one for iPad. Anyway, on to less scary things. Apple rumors.
Less scary for whom, I guess.
So, Jeremy, I'm sure you read about this. Some reports came out saying that Apple may be considering getting rid of the headphone jack, the 3.5 millimeter port on future iPhones, maybe next year's iPhone. And when I first read that headline, I'm like, well, that sounds pretty crazy. But the rumor says that what they would be replacing it with, and I was like, okay, if they get rid of that, are they going all in on Bluetooth and maybe Beats? Is that what they're trying to do? Sell like expensive Bluetooth headphones, and because they now own Beats, they're going to try making that. But it sounds, what the rumor is that they're actually going to be replacing it with the Lightning cable and doing a Lightning cable headphone that may be bundled. Or, I mean, it's also a rumor, but I think that makes a lot of sense.
When I first heard it, I thought, this is it. I got to sell my Apple stock. This is a bad idea. They're making bad decisions. Do you remember when they made the connector smaller? Not the, they made it so that
they shrunk the size. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like the threshold where you had to put your connector in had to fit within a certain diameter. So
the 3.5 millimeter jack.
So the metal part was standard, but the plastic behind the metal part, it now had to fit like Apple's standard.
So you need to get an adapter for some of those.
So you either had to get an adapter, or people started making new headphones that were like compatible with iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
And that pushed people pretty over the edge because they were pretty, obviously, like they had headphones already. They thought it should work with the iPhone, and that makes perfect sense. And now, like, you're not, like, there's not even a chance your headphones are going to work with it, unless they probably will ship some kind of adapter.
But it's going to be janky.
The adapter?
Yeah. How that's going to feel on your phone.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to keep it. Like, where is that adapter? It will be in the box when you buy the iPhone, but I don't know if you'll have it all the time.
Well, think about it this way. The 3.5 millimeter jack is obviously its big advantage is legacy support.
Yes.
Every headphone in the world works with 3.5 millimeter jack.
Right.
99.9999%. There is data application to it because there's some hardware and some software that you can actually
Square.
Square, absolutely.
Well, that all works with sound though.
Right.
They use the sound channels for data.
It's a hack.
Yeah.
But it's a clever workaround. The positioning of the headphone port is now right next to the data port, the Lightning cable, the Lightning connector.
Uh-huh.
Do you ever charge your phone
Yes.
and plug the headphone in at the same
Sure,
time?
I'm sure that I do sometimes.
I try to think of when the last time I did that.
It's nice to have that option.
Absolutely, it's nice to have the option. If we're talking about, for example, on the MacBook, the new MacBook, they got rid of all the ports and they're making the most out of the USB-C. So it's
Yes.
not unprecedented that they would reduce down to one port and try to sell accessories. The advantage of moving away, let's talk what the potential advantages are, right? Volume they're saving. One cheaper part, little space, design. It would be more quote unquote beautiful maybe in their eyes.
Yes.
Like if for right now on the iPhones, the speaker is just on the one side. It's not a stereo speaker.
Mm-hmm.
If they got rid of if they moved the headphone port and gave you a stereo speaker, would that change how your feelings about it?
Nope.
Nope.
No, it seems like with everything iPhone now, my feelings are we're at the point of diminishing returns. If they start reducing the thickness of the iPhone going forward, I don't care. I don't need it. This is a thin iPhone. If they want it, in my mind, they should treat the headphone jack as the limit. Let's just keep that headphone jack, and if the phone has to remain this thick, we'll make improvements elsewhere. I don't think that it's necessarily a good idea.
I think the reason they would do it, not to say they absolutely will do it, but one of the reasons they would do it is because the 3.5 millimeter jack, while there's a lot of compatibility and legacy support, it really is an old audio standard, an analog audio standard.
You think the sound quality can be improved?
I think if it changes, if they want to push forward sound quality, and they're in the music business, they have Beats, which not only makes headphones but the streaming service. They want to get people to choose Beats over Spotify and not Audio, but Google and other audio streaming services.
I don't know
if they tie into if they release if everyone who buys an iPhone next year gets a Lightning cable enabled earbud or has the option to natively buy a Beats headphone that has the Lightning cable adapter that gives you much better quality audio.
What you're talking about is moving the DAC off to the headphone wire.
That's right. And sending data over instead of...
You then have the ability to upgrade your digital audio converter, right?
Yep.
So maybe that would be a good thing for high-end audio people, but the DAC on the phone is fine. I don't think people are complaining about the audio quality right now.
Having listened to some of Patrick's headphones and his DACs, it really can be night and day.
You think so?
I think it could be a huge selling point. I think it's one of those things that if you don't listen, that there's a good enough, and we've been living with good enough for a long time, but the good enough also has gone slowly down, like from ripping CDs to streaming music, and a lot of people into listening to even podcasts at 128K or lower, 96K. That's fine and well, but I think it's an opportunity for Apple to come in and say, and other people have tried it with high-end audio, but you got to buy their
not
Sony,
successfully,
their expensive DAC and their expensive, player and expensive headphones. If Apple owns the headphones with Beats, has the service with Beats, has the player hardware with the iPhone and the tablets, and just can sell you a more expensive headphone that has the DAC built in.
Dude, come on. You got to understand that. You got to think about the masses here. The people are not going to like this. If they release an iPhone that does not work with people's headphones, they just got over the move to Lightning cable. That killed people, that they had to upgrade their 30-pin connector.
I have a little bit of a slight conspiracy theory. I remember this rumor first coming out when Lightning cable first came out, was that they're going to eliminate the headphone port. That was the move. That was what, 2 years ago now? 3 years ago now?
The rumor was they were thinking about the smaller barrel jack.
I actually heard the farther rumor, like this was the first step.
Moving towards Lightning.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if they actually released this sort of leak. This is a leak.
To gauge
Just
what
test the waters.
Yeah, what the community response has been. And I think it's actually been a lot more mixed than a few years ago. I hear some people, maybe because of like what you said at the beginning, like Bluetooth headphone adoption. I haven't heard as much vitriol about this rumor.
There's a lot of Bluetooth headphones out there, and a lot of people are happy with.
You're giving me the
Bluetooth,
look. Like, no
Bluetooth
way.
4.0 sounds great.
Yeah.
So you're still gonna have that. I think a lot of it will go down. Will end up being the adapter design if they do this. I can imagine something plugging into the bottom of the iPhone where the audio jack plugs in sideways, perpendicular, and not I guess parallel with the bottom of the phone, so it doesn't stick out as much. It would be a differentiating factor. And audio, Apple loves audio, and they've been making less money over time with iTunes, and it could be a way for them to make a lot more money and get people to buy headphones.
It's a horrible idea.
In other Apple news, the A9X chip that's in the iPad Pro, which is Apple's fastest SoC, was put under the microscope by Chipworks and Anantech, and it looks like it is a hugely powerful 12-core CPU.
What is this? The thing in the iPad Pro?
iPad Pro, which
12 core.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
12-core GPU. Huge GPU, which you're going to need for that screen, that resolution. But the reason this is interesting, and they use PowerVR GPUs, is the trajectory of the A chipsets, the Apple SoCs, and can these chips be powerful enough? I think the conversation isn't is the iPhone or is the iPad going to replace your laptop, because that's a platform discussion and
Mhm.
they're designed to be fundamentally different things. But is the processing power and potential of the chip that Apple designs on the path to potentially replace Intel's chips
Right. In their laptops.
in laptops?
Mhm.
Exactly. And uh, by all accounts, the A9X is incredibly powerful. It's optimized for iOS right now. A lot of the way they've designed the cache and designed the GPU for the resolution and the graphics of an iPad, and the the even the multitasking. You're only at most running two things and some background tasks at the same time. So it's kind of the chip is designed. That's one of the reasons iOS devices work so well, is because the chips are designed for that. I don't know if that could be adapted to
Mhm.
to Mac OS. Um, it requires a fundamentally different different type of multitasking and thread handling when you're talking about a desktop space with moving files around with windowed applications.
Mhm.
So even though A9X looks like it's hugely powerful, and you can look and project A10 and A10X to be even more powerful, I don't think we can say, oh, it's going to get to a point where they can just flip a switch and start running Mac OS, even if Mac OS was ported to ARM on these chips. I think
Are
they would have to design a different chip.
are Android, excuse me, are Samsung phones ARM based?
Yes,
And
yeah.
so but the architecture of the whole chip is different than
Yeah, so there's
Apple's architecture?
So ARM, just because two things are ARM based doesn't mean they're architected the same way.
Right.
And I think one of the huge advantages of Apple designing its own chips is that they can prioritize the die distribution and where the cores go where and how much memory is put in this and how actually the memory is used.
Yeah.
The low level memory for their OS.
Yeah.
It's
So
one of the reasons
So certainly OS 10 could run on ARM. It's just a matter of coming up with a better architecture.
and I guess recoding Mac OS.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they had it running on Intel for like 5 years before they even released that, right?
Yeah,
Back
yeah,
when it was
it's true. Yeah, I mean they're always thinking about the future.
Yeah.
Apple's in so many places. It's kind of crazy.
Yep.
Because they could have entire divisions already working on cars, and like that's the whole other thing. Like, how involved do you think Tim Cook is in this, like the day to day and in these product lines?
He doesn't return my calls. I have no idea.
He returns your emails. He has time.
Yeah.
He has time to answer Jeremy's emails.
Yeah. I have no idea. I think it's a substantially different company, different hierarchy than it was with Jobs.
Mhm.
That's all I think. I imagine that Tim Cook trusts and delegates more than Jobs did, and relies on other people's taste and decision making.
All right. Well, that's it for the Apple rumors. Let's play some transition music. Hey, I skipped over this, but I do want to talk about the Chan Zuckerberg initiative, which I'm not involved.
You and Zuck.
No, sorry.
You're not giving away 99% of your wealth?
It wouldn't do much. Yeah,
Well, that's what he said. Did you see? If you read his like huge letter, it's a long
That's right.
letter.
So Mark Zuckerberg and his wife, Dr. Priscilla Chan, I believe, just had their first baby, daughter, and Max. And in the announcement, they also, in the announcement of the birth, they also announced a new foundation they would be creating and how they would be redistributing their wealth. So they've created an LLC, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, for which they will put 99% of their shares of Facebook, which currently is valued at about $45 billion, and at a rate of about $1 billion per year, spend that in ways that they see fit to better the world.
Oh, I didn't read that. So they have assigned a spend rate.
I think it's an approximate spend rate.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not committed in stone.
Okay.
I don't think any of these things ever
I know
are.
Gates wants to spend his fortune within a very specific time period.
Well, yeah, and most of that's driven by his lifetime.
Mhm.
And with Zuck being, quite a bit younger than Gates, I think that there's a big difference there.
Got it.
In
I think
terms of what that's going to look like.
They said as much where they want to spend. They want to use that wealth in their lifetime so they can help direct it. So it's some of it's going to go to charities, some of it's going to go to research, some of it's going to go to investing to make more money for the foundation. But it is a lot like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
They already announced a couple things. He's been partnered on the Breakthrough Prize, which Yuri Milner supported, which is a series of prizes. It's like it's their version of the Nobel Prize for scientists, and they give away $1 million. They actually aired the award ceremony on Fox this weekend, and it was hosted by Seth MacFarlane. And they announced an initiative ahead of the climate change talks in Paris, a breakthrough prize for energy.
That's funny.
And it's jointly with Gates around speeding up innovation in clean energy formation. So I think you're already seeing spending in that. The snark around this was like the smug level from the media was up to 11.
Oh, I didn't catch
like,
any of that. Why?
Oh, I saw pieces. Like, I think the most snarky one I saw was in the Guardian about wealthy people like overly directing their wealth. And like that they're going, Zuckerberg's going to choose the things that he wants to work on. And like, instead of being like, here's $45 billion to Oxfam, which is already doing all this work in terms of sustainability of food supply and food security for a whole host of populations. I'm a little bit cynical about all that snark. It seems a little much for me, because what the Gates Foundation has really done is that name, when it enters the room, really catalyzes energy. Like if the word Gates Foundation shows up at like my university, people pay attention all of a sudden, and it has nothing to do with the fact that that it's about like a rich person directing money as much as it is they have some really smart people that work there. So I'm more interested with this initiative of who he's going to put in place around the formation and the strategy around this.
I mean, really is kind of creating these charitable institutions where they're almost treated like, with Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, like giant tech companies, where there's a reputation of getting stuff done, where it's where there's a brand strength to it. And you're right, like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they get stuff done, and they've said they focus on these very specific things. And the great thing is that, like along with Warren Buffett, Bill and Melinda Gates, and Mark Zuckerberg, they've all been in the same room together, and they've all decided to focus on the things that interest them. So, and focus their energies, not just the money. Like, and that focus and energy is what he brings to it. I mean, and it's how he made Facebook what it is today.
He's also made some pretty big mistakes in philanthropy. Like a few years ago, he announced the $100 million to the Newark school system that was announced with like Cory Booker and Chris Christie. And that money is largely seen as been wasted on the public school system in a lot of ways. I think people can quibble with my assessment there. But, in terms of outcomes that $100 million generated, there's very few to really hang your hat on. And so I think the formation of this represents more strategy in place from him, instead of saying like, here's a check.
Right. And
is there a goal that they have targeted? Like, I know Bill Gates has said, we will end malaria before I have, passed it. Has Zuck said something like that?
The announcement, which read a little bit like a press release, I mean, it was very measured. They talk about making the world a better place for the generations to come. I think education, equality, and connectivity were like big pillars of it. And some of that obviously ties back to the work that Facebook is doing, just in the connectivity and education part. So at a point where you have $45 billion to put somewhere, and you're already talking about it's building legacy, and so it's in their interest to make it as worthwhile as possible. Like, how else are if we talk about history of billionaires, I think we're definitely moving away from the just passing it on to the family.
I'm sure that there are billionaires that still do that. They just don't make the news.
Yeah.
I think Warren Buffett deserves a lot of credit for
Absolutely.
this. I think he's been the real catalyst.
He inspired Bill Gates to do that.
Exactly. And so it'll be really interesting to see. I like the fact they're picking a lane, because $45 billion is actually not very much money in the scheme of like some of the things they want to actually change. It's just not. And so it's weird to say that, but when you talk about like eradicating disease or uplifting a whole generation's educational outcomes, it's just not much money.
Well, then I'm being a little bit of a downer.
Well, I mean, I would trade for his 1% remaining wealth. But I mean, like,
the $500 million. Is it a case where, when Facebook stock dips, then the foundation's like, oh no, we're not going to get our $1 billion this year.
so nonprofits are all like, we got to get back on Facebook.
We got to get back on Facebook. Come on, everyone, let's help raise the stock so we can get more money into our foundations.
You're saying the more targeted, the better. Like the more specific they can be, the better.
I think so. I mean, the fact that you see that with the Gates Foundation and their success in Africa specifically, I think it shows that is a way to go.
So in terms of spending this money, does he relinquish control over time of Facebook because of it?
I actually kind of hope so. I mean, Bill Gates hired a CEO for the foundation. She used to be head of the university that I work at, and she's like whip smart.
Well,
I'm sure he's going to have, but like Bill Gates clearly has stepped away from Microsoft to do that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm just talking about in terms of the actual investment and his stake, because right now, unlike Bill Gates, Zuckerberg has controlling share of Facebook. Investors cannot make him do anything because he owns a majority stake in it. So if he's over time is selling his stock to fund this foundation, does that mean he's actually giving away the one thing that he uniquely has? Control?
I don't know. We need a lawyer.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, very interesting. Going back to some second phone news. Who here has an AT&T data plan?
Oh, yes, unlimited.
Unlimited?
Yes, it's wonderful. I've been paying the same price for how many years now?
8 years.
7 years? Yeah, 8 years. You're right. Yeah, it's great. Life is good.
Life is so good. Kishore, are you on the unlimited plan?
No, I have T-Mobile, so I am binge on now.
What does that even mean?
That was their like announcement that you could watch like Netflix without affecting your data.
That's right. That's right.
I think the best thing to come out of being an early adopter of the iPhone was getting onto then singular, but now AT&T's unlimited data plan for, I believe, $30 a month. If you look at your phone bill, it's actually split between the multiple services outside of tax. There's a data plan portion, there's the text and unlimited text and minutes portion, and then there's like the regulatory fees and maybe like a add-on features like tethering. But the data portion for AT&T users for the longest time was $30 a month for unlimited, which you cannot get. It's an unbelievable deal. It's one of the reasons people stick to AT&T.
Right.
And now they announced that they were raising that next February to $35.
$5 raise.
$5 raise.
Yep.
Happy to pay it.
Are they adding tethering? Because that is one of our restrictions.
No way. They want to get us off of this plan as soon as possible. Now it's technically not unlimited.
I know, it's like 22 gigabytes, right?
22 gigabytes, and at which point they have the right to throttle you based on the area you're in.
Do you guys remotely get near that number?
No.
I get close. I've gotten at least 15 gigs a month in uploading because I use it as my hotel internet.
Well, maybe you shouldn't be uploading those cosplay galleries using your.
But sometimes it's so much better. I uploaded 800 pictures at the Atlanta airport on a tethered phone.
Oh, you really did that?
Yes.
That was a joke.
Well, no, that was I actually, because the hotel, I waited up all night and I couldn't upload on the crappy Marriott hotel internet, and the Hyatt hotel internet, and so I was like freaking out. And then literally like in the morning, 5 a.m., while waiting in line to check for TSA at the airport, uploaded like 800 megs.
Wow.
Could you touch your phone after that, or was it just scalding?
No, it's fine.
Wow.
Totally fine. Yeah.
So what do you think? I mean, when last time I looked into it, switching to the plans that AT&T wants you on, it was now you might not have this because I really only use about 6-7 gigs a month. Mm-hmm. So I was looking at the various plans, and it looked like I was only saving about $5 by staying on the unlimited plan. And if I moved to the other one, then I could get tethering like built in.
But then you would use more probably.
I don't. Oh, because I'm tethering.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't tether that often, but when I'm traveling, it would be nice. Yes. So I don't know. I'm thinking I might switch over. I might abandon the unlimited.
You also have the iPhone 6.
That's true.
And not the Plus. And one of the advantages, if you have tethering, the Plus is a great tethering device because
why is it better?
Because battery life. You don't have to fear because it just consumes more energy when you're connected that long.
I don't know. So now that if I'm gonna, then it opens up the whole Pandora's box. Like if I'm gonna leave unlimited, then I can just look at whatever provider I want. Like, do I want to go with Verizon, T-Mobile? You happy with T-Mobile?
No. But I mean, like, I'm not happy because like there's places I can't make phone calls or like browse stuff. Like it's just connectivity stuff.
AT&T,
in terms of service and price, it's great.
It's okay. They did say that they would, if people who are unlimited are unhappy, they will let you out of your contract with no fees.
Oh boy, no fees to go on a crappier plan.
I just re-upped like with the iPhone, so that's not a bad deal for me.
Yeah, well, they're moving away from those 2-year contracts anyway.
I know.
They don't want you to do that. They
Yep.
want you to pay a little more per month and not have to put a down payment on the phone, because both Apple and the carriers are interested in you upgrading almost every year, kind of be on the lease structure for phones. Which
right when phone upgrades got uninteresting.
Well, data and bandwidth is still a huge concern, especially as, even though networks are getting a little better, but the websites are getting more complicated. There are a lot of ads now, and there's a lot of congestion, and you're streaming more stuff. Chrome for Android now has a new feature where you can prevent Chrome from loading images on the page, saving up to 70%. And I know why you're laughing, Jeremy.
Browse like it's 1993.
That is exactly it. It's
you know what? There's certain sites that I would prefer to see the 1993 version of them versus the current version.
I remember that being such a big deal back in the late 90s, having on dial-up to have, I think it was Opera, or that had the ability to do not load images on the website, and you can click the image to load individual images. This is stupid. It's such a stopgap. It's the wrong way of solving the problem. The problem is to design cleaner pages. The solution is design cleaner pages, and also to build better infrastructure, and also not charge ridiculous amounts of money for data.
I mean, you're 100% right about cleaning up sites. There is. I actually looked at this because I'm a unapologetic Android user. I as I was browsing last night a bunch of sites, I would say like a full quarter to 40% of the sites that I go to, I wish I had a feature that like cleaned this up.
Well, there's reader views, and you can Instapaper, and you can strip out a lot of the formatting.
Exactly, but that's not as well built for just I'm going to pick up my phone and browse something on the fly kind of experience. I mean, the site, in the article that we're sort of referencing, the site they reference is Bleacher Report, which is one of the worst mobile experiences for a site that you can imagine. It's a very, kind of clickbaity kind of place. So like there are all these images you have to swarm through just to get to the content. So I get it. It's a workaround for bad design, but cleaning up the design of mobile experiences on the internet has been something we've been talking about for what, like a decade, 15 years?
Yeah, and go back to Apple. Apple's solution for it is to build their own news app. And I don't know what the usability reports are for the news app, but the idea is working with publishers. Basically, Apple's designing the websites, the web experience for people, for all these publishers who previously had their own sites, and then distributing their ads as well, and just letting people create the content. But I don't think that takes away from the whole browsing experience. Facebook does it to some extent, because a lot of people browse the internet just through Facebook, click links, and I think Facebook is doing a good job of creating a new type of browsing experience where you're not clicking from link to link and just going to search engine, where you're just scrolling down a feed, and then algorithmically they're surfacing articles that you might be interested in. What the internet means to people and the way we browse and read content is going to be completely different in a couple of years. Mobile web browsers were all built under the idea of the desktop model of browsing the internet, clicking links, going from pages, typing in URLs. That model, while still like a dominant form of how we browse, just like shopping, is going to move either from app-based or within these ecosystems of Facebook or Apple News or whatever the new interface is going to be. And that's the strength of those services of Facebook. Like they can design something like that. And then they control the ads and they control the reading experience. But there's no easy solution right now. Do you guys mostly still type URLs in on mobile?
I'm afraid I'm falling behind the time here. You're kind of frightening me, saying that the web experience is going to change. Yes, I still have bookmarks. I mean, I still use my bookmark.
On mobile, you use bookmarks?
Yes, yes,
that's
and
cool.
I don't know. If I need to go somewhere, actually, the auto what is it, like the auto type when on the awesome bar in
Mhm.
Chrome. I use that all the time. Like if I want to go to Amazon, just type in AMA, enter, because I know it's going to be Amazon.
That's one step toward changing. If we're talking about uh, what your flow through the internet is. A lot of people, they only go to the bookmarks bar. They only go to their 10 sites. That's all they ever do. And for them, the internet is a smaller place. Facebook, even though it feels like a smaller place because you're only getting a feed, they've done an amazing job of surfacing stories on other sites. Wow, that was unexpected.
Don't say Facebook. That happens.
I know. I was just taking my laptop off from sleep. The rocket just exploded. An hour and a half in, it's gone. Facebook has done a great job of expanding, even though it's a closed system, of expanding the internet to for a lot of people whose internet experience is just through the Facebook application.
Does that really happen?
Yes.
This is nuts. That sounds like America Online. When people they thought that was the internet.
And in so many places around the world, Facebook is the internet. They don't open Safari or Chrome and type in or use bookmarks or go to Google. I mean, the Google Awesome Bar is making Google, the landing page, the internet, the search engine page. And Google has no analog for Facebook in terms of a way to curate and surface articles algorithmically. But yeah, I think there's no one solution for everyone. Everyone's going to find the platforms they like the most, and they're going to complement. And that's why it's tough for web publishers to have to build websites that are not only just mobile, desktop, but also Apple News compliant, Facebook feed compliant, and are best for those readers and the behaviors of those readers. Same thing happens for video, right? For a lot of people, when you say video on the internet, it just means YouTube. And people can live all day watching just video on YouTube, and that's fine. And for a lot of people, video just means those 15-second autoplay videos on Facebook. And that's how they enjoy it. They don't even need sound because all those videos have captions now. Yeah, it's about the right type of content for each platform. And now I'm going to play the transition music. I'm going to skip the next story because I don't think it's that interesting. But talk about Raspberry Pi Zero next. And Jeremy, you put this on the list.
First of all, okay, so Raspberry Pi announced a new platform. What is that? What you call it? It's a new piece of hardware.
Yeah.
So earlier this year, they released the Raspberry Pi 2. It came out, I don't know, early in the spring, it's phenomenal. It's like super fast Linux computer, just like the first one. Well, I guess people they still found the $30 price point a barrier in some parts of the world. And so they wanted to make this accessible to absolutely everybody, a computer that for anybody. So they have now developed a $5 Raspberry Pi called the Raspberry Pi Zero, which is faster than the first Raspberry Pi. It uses the same CPU, the same microprocessor as the first one, but they've clocked it up, and it has HDMI out, USB port, has a power in, has it doesn't have as many jacks. It doesn't have Ethernet. It doesn't have 4 USB jacks. It just it's very stripped down, but it has all the same pinouts, so you can do general I/O. And it's basically a Raspberry Pi for $5, which I find incredible.
That is incredible.
It's totally incredible, and it's not the way they wanted to go. Like they were having a conversation with Eric Schmidt from Google, who helped convince them not to go to a higher end model, to go low end on the pricing.
To go the other way.
And so that's where the $5 came from. But they only made a limited number of these, right?
They made tens of thousands of them,
and they're gone. Right? They're sold out.
I guess. I mean, you can still at least. Okay, so they said that they sold out within 24 hours, but you could still buy them in bundles. So I bought one from Adafruit as like a $30 bundle that comes with all the adapters because it's a mini HDMI port. It has there's no headers on the pins, so you do have to, if you're gonna program on it, you got to do a few more things for it. But and they gave away 10,000 of them.
Right, they bundled it with like a magazine.
Their own magazine. They put it on the cover. It's the first magazine ever to ship with a computer giveaway, which is pretty neat. But man, $5?
$5.
First of all,
amazing.
yeah, I mean, I don't even know how they did that because it does not cost them $5 to make this. If they're gonna have the boards made, buy all the components, have it assembled, have the box made that it ships in, and have it distributed by people who also need to cut, this thing has to cost less than half of $5. I mean, this has to cost them $2 to make, and I don't know how they do that.
I think in America we have a skewed sense of how much things actually cost.
No. But you could talk about like economies of scale when it comes to computer components, and that's true. But there is a point at which they don't scale and they don't scale much more.
But it's not just economies of scale; it's also standards of living and the whole.
No, but I'm just saying, how do they make this for $5 and able to sell it for $5?
Wasn't the seed funded with like some sort of like educational money from Google or something that like subsidized this to a certain extent?
That's what I wondered. Like, is it subsidized to some degree? Because it is an amazing price point.
That's what I thought. And this isn't the first one that we've heard about with this. Like there was another micro kit that's supposed to come out from like BBC. Or
Same kind of price point?
Like, yeah, $5 or something. But I haven't, I think it got delayed or something like that. But it's still a marvel. $5, like I agree. Like when I first heard about it, I was like, why are they selling something for $5? That seems crazy.
Yeah.
Because even if they somehow have a 20% margin on it, it's still which I don't understand how they would.
I don't think they're on.
It's still
it's not to make money.
Yeah.
No, they're a nonprofit company, and I understand they need to make money in order to keep making new things and all. But I don't think this is a profit move. I mean, I don't even know if they're making money on this at all. Like if this might just be a break even kind of initiative, just to say, look what we did. And they really, really believe in their mission, which is, getting computers into everybody's hands so that they can learn how to program. Because it was an interesting announcement video where the CEO brought on his first two computers, which was like a Commodore and an Amiga. Maybe it was a VIC-20. Anyway, he brought them on and he talked about how he had these when he was a kid and he saved up all his money to buy them. And they were like $200 at the time, which was a huge barrier to him. But he like sold everything he had, crashed his piggy bank, went and bought these, and they were the most important things to him when he was a kid. And they made him who he was today because he spent countless hours on them. And so now anybody can do that. That was their mission, is to allow anybody just to be able to drop $5 and have a computer that they can experiment on. And it's right there in front of them. They can sort of see the different components and think about how it works. It's not a mysterious device. Although, I mean, to some degree it is until you start to delve in there, but it's accessible.
Do your kids have any interest in Raspberry Pi and the kind of computing it offers?
Well, I mean, my son has messed with Scratch, which is it's like the visual coding language that developed by MIT that's been emulated on countless iPad apps and other things like that. And that's super cool. Code.org uses the same kind of system. So coding to a degree is there. My son also has taken an interest in wiring up LEDs and various buttons, but not programming like on a Raspberry Pi. I still think that's kind of advanced. I mean, it's a Linux computer.
Right. But the things you can do with it, it's cool to say, here's a Altoids tin with
absolutely
that you can run Plex on.
1080p,
Nice.
60 frames a second.
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing. The time we live in.
Very cool stuff. Well, before we move on to the next topic, I do want to thank our sponsor for this week's episode of This Is Only a Test. And the sponsor is Squarespace. Building a website can be tough. And even if you know your way around coding, creating something that looks good and works well is a time-consuming affair. Whether it's for a business site, a portfolio, a restaurant, or whatever else, in this day and age, you probably need a website anyway. Well, lucky for us, Squarespace makes it easy to build beautiful websites without breaking a sweat. Squarespace provides simple, powerful, and beautiful websites that look professionally designed regardless of skill level, no coding required. Not only does Squarespace provide you with intuitive, easy-to-use tools to create your website with, it also has state-of-the-art technology powering your site to ensure security and stability. Much better than those Quake fan sites I was building with Microsoft Front Page in 1998 or 7. Seriously, you can't beat the ease and simplicity of Squarespace. They also have 24/7 online support. And so what are you waiting for? Start with a trial. No credit card down required, and start building your website today. You can also get 10% off your first purchase by using the offer code TEST. That supports us, this podcast. This is only a test. So thank you guys for listening, and thanks Squarespace for supporting us and continuing to support us.
Has any tested fan found your old like GeoCities?
That's what I was thinking. How do I find that on archive.org? What do I type in?
I don't want to give that away.
Are you serious?
Because I would know. The reason is, and I thought about
this feels like
this
a
up.
premium member challenge.
Wow, was GeoCities archived everything, or GeoCities
No.
was archived?
Jason Scott archived everything from GeoCities. He works for archive.org.
But is it? It is on archive.org.
Yeah, I'm sure that it is, but it might be in a zip file.
The reason I don't want to do it is because the domain extension was my Quake 1 handle, which was a really lame Quake 1 handle.
Oh, dude, I had the worst handles. I was like Fred Flintstone, I was like Demon Stalker.
Frolicking Snow Deer.
That was you?
Yeah.
Oh, that takes the cake.
I don't like. It's such a terrible story about how that ended up with my handle.
What? I want to hear the story.
It was just like a.
And was it for Quake?
No, it wasn't for Quake, but it was for. Oh my God! There's so many games that it was for. Oh, I'm having like some bad flashbacks. No, I'll save that story for another time.
Oh my goodness, I really want to hear the story, but I want to hear everyone's handles.
In Quake, I was Flynn, and I was quite happy with that because
You've been Flynn forever.
that was the Tron years when
That's a solid handle.
Yeah, it worked.
Did you get over handles? I got over handles.
Yeah, I'm
in
real name.
college.
I'm real name now. Real names are cool.
Yeah. It was not cool to use your real name as your handle in like 2002.
No.
Like people were like, "Oh, I got to come up with the clever handle and the inner space cap." And then of course, Xbox and having gamer tags and that changed everything. And no one has a real name because you can't get it. It's like domain squatting.
Yeah.
But back in the day when you wanted to have a unique name because then people would recognize it was you if you jumped onto a regular server, and you wanted to see your name pop up on a leaderboard somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just like the arcades.
So what was it?
I don't want to.
Come on, dude. No one's gonna judge you.
Oh, I'm gonna judge him. But only because I revealed my terrible one.
I think it was like Death Frantic or something with
What's wrong with that?
DETH.
That sounds like a rapper name, man.
It was.
I'm
so
terrified
lame.
just sitting here next to you, Death Frantic.
And then I had another one which was Death Vendor, and that was equally
Nice.
lame.
How much does death cost?
Do you accept PayPal, Death Vendor?
10% off if you use the offer code DEATH, DETH. Yeah, find my GeoCities. Don't find my GeoCities website. I don't even know where how would you even go about finding that?
I don't. The Tested Army is already at work on it. I bet.
Oh my god. Front page tables. I'm building websites, frames and tables.
Yeah, I never used front page. I just used like Notepad. But I do remember tables.
Hardcore.
I do remember tables. I actually never did CSS. I'm a tables guy.
Yeah,
Tables.
CSS got like,
Old school.
a little bit too complicated for
Yeah.
my mind when I started, and now there are services you don't have to use either of those. Sounds like an appropriate time for.
Can I just say one thing
Yes.
about the Raspberry Pi Zero? Should have been called the Pi 5, right? Missed opportunity. A wonderful name. They must have thought of it and not used it.
Why
But-
Pi 5?
'cause it sounds like,
That's Pi 5.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? And it
Yeah.
costs $5.
I got that part. I just didn't make
Double
the high
entendre.
five connection.
All right. That's all I want to say.
I was like, is it because like pi, like the 5 is like an S, like PIS? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Anyway, because we have our senior science correspondent, Kishore Hari, on the podcast today, we have some science stuff we want to go over.
I have a couple quick hitters for
Yes.
you. Most important science story of the week is that there is a gene editing summit happening in Washington, D.C. I think it just concluded. It's
Wow.
at the National Academy of Sciences. Gene editing. So you guys have seen Gattaca?
Yes.
Yes, very much in that frame, but not at all. So
Hasn't America said you may not edit human genes?
Yeah, so there's a particular technique that has come out now.
Hold on. You mentioned Gattaca. They did not edit genes in Gattaca.
Oh.
Gattaca was about unnatural selection.
I know, that's why I said just like that, except not at all.
Except not at all. Yes. Okay. Sorry.
It's just the pop culture frame of reference.
Yes. Okay.
for
Got
people.
it. Got it.
So bacteria evolved this defense against viruses, and they had this pathway called CRISPR. If you hear this term at all, there's a pathway called CRISPR-Cas9 that allowed the bacteria to basically make a copy of its own DNA for it's a viral detection, viral prevention method. And then we've been able to come up with a method, humans, to cut and paste that pieces of DNA out now, or what we can call specific genes. And weirdly enough, even though bacteria has evolved this works really well in mammalian DNA strands, which is really surprising that this pathway could work well with it. And this researcher at UC Berkeley, Jennifer Doudna, discovered this. And the initial worry was like, oh, if we have cut and paste now with genetics, we can just do that with all sorts of different technologies. We could even do it with human embryos. Fast forward a couple years, CRISPR's only been on the scene probably like 4 to 7 years, depending on how you count. Last year, or actually this year, a lab in China actually did that with human embryos. These were non-viable human embryos.
What?
And immediately every like scientist came out and said like, this is ethically terrible.
Yes.
The director of the NIH came out and said, we're not going to allow that here in the US. And and I think it was a little bit of an impetus for this summit on the ethics of gene editing. At the same time, one of the leaders of this movement from a science side is this MIT professor, Feng Zhang. And he published a paper the same day this summit started, indicating they have a more efficient way to do this. Like it's going to be more accurate in humans.
At what point in the gestation period do you even do the cut and paste? You can't do it once a fetus is formed, right? You have to do it earlier than that.
So no one's really doing this in mammalian tissue, and yes, you can.
Whoa!
Like they're talking about like full on cut and paste any. I mean, we're talking about DNA, so they can just do it at any stage. The stage of development of you is not the issue.
Huh?
It's pretty incredible technology, and people are losing their minds about it. What's really important about this summit is that it's rising. The technology is going at a pace that is outstripping our ability to even think through the ethical basis. So these discussions that are happening behind the scenes shouldn't be behind the scenes. People should be paying attention to this. This is probably going to be the biggest story in all of biology over the next 5 years. And beyond that, there's a massive patent war coming on it too. So UC Berkeley is in a huge fight with MIT about who actually gets the patent for this, because there's billions upon billions of dollars at stake, depending on how that patent is awarded. They've already kind of awarded it through this sort of fast-tracked method to MIT that undercut UC Berkeley's work. There's a crazy fight happening there. But I encourage people to learn more about CRISPR, because if people talk about CRISPR in terms of bringing back the woolly mammoth to eliminating diseases like Huntington's disease, which is a pure genetic disease that can happen, that can be detected pre-childbirth.
Bring back that woolly mammoth.
No, I don't want to say that woolly mammoth.
Issa Nebula, please. Isn't that Jurassic Park? I don't know. It came to mind. I want Jurassic Park.
Isla Nublar?
That sounds more right.
Isla Nublar.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't want Jurassic.
Stop leasing those islands.
You know why I don't want Jurassic Park? The food's gonna be terrible. We all know this about amusement parks. Food is gonna be just.
Well, you're gonna
terrible.
have Margaritavilles at least. Does it make you like, we're in a unique point in history where technology is growing at an incredible rate. We've seen the emergence, the exponential growth of some technologies, like almost to a point where, and we have more foresight than ever because we can track things with Moore's law and trajectories of
technical foresight. Yeah.
Yes. Do you feel like really happy that you were born and you were of this age? Or do you feel like, oh man, I wish I was born 100 or 200 years later?
Oh, that's a really interesting question to me, because like the only way I think about that question, which I've sadly thought about before, is to rewind the clock. I've done it with like a 50-year timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Like, would I have rather been born in 2030 versus 1970 something or 1920?
Right.
And like that choice is like, I definitely did not want to be born in 1920,
Right,
because of what was coming over those 20 years.
Well, I mean,
now, I'm not so sure that being born in 2030 has some advantages. Like, I would have grown up in an age where things like ease of life, I think would have been different. But I think there's nothing like so astounding between people born today versus when I was born that I see as like a massive difference.
I mean,
forward.
it's one of the huge advantages of being born and being of this relatively close generation, is to see the difference between having internet and no internet, which if you go back, it's like pre-industrial revolution, post-industrial revolution, or before cars and after cars and transportation, and just in communications. And everyone, like, you can only see within your bubble. So if you ask the same question of someone in 1800s, right, they would have thought they were much better off someone born 200 years before them, but because we have so much foresight and because we can see these trajectories, like we can imagine more and we can actually see it happening. It doesn't feel as much science fiction.
To me, life expectancy is like a big one to point at. So 1920 versus 1970, big jump in life expectancy. We're not seeing that big of a jump between 1970 and 2020.
Now, do you use that as a barometer for progress, or using that as like a thing that you
I don't
have
just
wanted
use
to
it as
experience?
a barometer, like the world uses that as a barometer of success. So I think that's one thing, because life expectancy going up and down is usually indicative of technology and health development.
But less about quality of life then,
Correct.
and more about just the things you want to experience. And if you were a writer in the 1700s and you could imagine, one day we'll reach the stars, or one day we'll reach, and now we've been to the moon and we're gonna get to Mars, but you can imagine forward and wow, I wish I was born 300 years from now when we start colonizing the moon, right? That's an experience that we will never have. That may be normal, like those new normals 100 years from now may not be radically different. Life expectancy as a barometer may only be incremental at that point, but in terms of like the worldview and in our place in the solar system and
Yeah.
like
But I did see the Star Wars movies in the theater, the original one.
so this is one of the reasons why it's now the great time. Like we're 100 years after the invention of cinema, but also at the cusp of virtual reality.
That's another big change that I think that people are going to see.
Yeah.
Like the internet. I think virtual reality is a major new medium.
So in terms of like if you talk about, let's say, human lifespan, you have a good 80 years, to be generous, of a span. We're in a pretty prime 80 years. People who were born in the 70s and 80s to go to forecast into the mid 2000s.
And I think we do have, as you were saying, a lot of perspective, because we saw this, like the change from disconnected computers to modems, then to the internet, and we saw the rise of like hard drives and data, and we have an appreciation for a stripped down internet versus today's mess.
And a maturing of several other technologies that developed rapidly over the early 20th century.
Yes.
Like transportation, and then like media, like movies.
However, there's very exciting things happening, and it's almost sort of a gamble. Like if you could say,
Well, there's unexpected stuff too.
I wish, like, if you could say, yeah, I would like to have been born 100 years later. Maybe that's true. Maybe everybody's going to have electric flying devices and life will be really interesting. But then if you're an American, maybe America won't be the dominant empire anymore in the world. And maybe someone who is even less benevolent than us will be, and it won't be as sweet a place to live.
Or it could be in the middle of another world war.
Maybe there won't be enough trees in the world. And maybe, this fossil fuel burning escapade that we've been on for so long will have taken its toll, and we will not be as wealthy as we are today.
My optimistic thing, the thing that makes me want to have been born later, is the idea of that generation potentially colonizing another planet.
Yeah.
That is my pinnacle thing to be alive for, to see human, crude exploration of space, take the next leap.
Yeah.
That would be it for me as my number one thing.
I completely agree. And even it doesn't need to be Star Trek. It doesn't need to be a colonization of the galaxy, which it could hopefully
be growing a potato on Mars.
Yeah, it could be a colony of 100 people. That would be the most exciting thing. I mean, the first, like, before that becomes the new normal and humans are, have spread everywhere. But culturally, that's a completely different cultural mindset. Like, as divisive and as split as the world is today.
I don't know. I think finding that there is life off our planet, for sure, like developed life, that would be the biggest cultural shift I hope to see us see. That would be great.
I think the math of that is so likely that we're going to find life elsewhere in the universe. But the life that we find is more than likely going to be sort of like bacterial life.
Sure.
I'm less excited about that, because life is this massive sort of thing. Are you talking about finding intelligent life?
I mean, yes, I would like for that to happen. I grew up with Close Encounters and ET, and I would like for that to happen, just because I would love for everyone else in the world to embrace the same opinion that I think we both have, which is that it's obvious that it's out there. However unlikely it is that we will see it in our lifetime.
The scales, the sense of our scale could also, as a culture, change. Right now, we think within the confines of our lifespans, and we are kind of, for better or worse, that is how we develop technology and our political system, and how we. But if we found another civilization, another colony, and it
Yes.
took, let's say, 100 years or 500 years to relay one message back and forth, that alone could change how society perceives time and scale. Like, imagine waiting 500 years
Yeah.
to get to relay a message. Like, that could change everything. That's exciting stuff. That's the stuff I'm also I wish we could see in our lifetimes.
Yes.
Looking forward. Speaking of
Outer space.
outer space.
Oh, yes. We're still in the science minute. I need a name for this segment if we're going
I
to
like
keep
Science
doing it.
Minute. Got the VR minute.
So the last story I'll mention is that I love that Saturn has rings and Jupiter has rings and Uranus has rings.
We
I
have
know
this in
that
common. Yes.
my kid is super into space, so I have to talk about this a lot.
Do you have a telescope?
No, I don't.
Gotta get a telescope.
We don't because like light pollution and fog where I live,
Yeah.
is pretty bad. It is on the list. I actually want to actually build a Dobsonian one when he gets older.
That'd be great.
So we'll see. But Mars is going to get rings. Not
When?
in our lifetime. It's going to take about a few million years. But Phobos, one of the Martian moons, is now they understand that it's actually tearing apart slowly, and it's going to tear apart, and the resulting dust, unlike Seven Eves, for those that may have read that,
Not yet.
it's going to form rings around Mars.
Is that enough material to cause visible rings through a telescope?
Oh, yeah.
That is what happens. That's what they projected would happen in Seven Eves also.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Over time, there
Yeah.
would be a ring.
Oh, yes. Sorry. But I'm excited that I usually think about planets as being really static endeavors. I mean, outside of like asteroid impacts, but the idea that these the planets just in our solar system are developing and eliminating rings over time, I thought was one of the cooler stories.
That would be the first rocky planet to have rings in our solar system, right?
Yeah, technically. Yes.
Technically, I'm speaking technically.
No, yeah. Yes, it's definitely true.
Hey, that just wraps up the Science Minute. So it's time for
Virtual reality this week.
Are you making a bid to be the new face of VR?
Oh, I could never fill those shoes.
Jeremy. I know you just put on the Gear VR headset to make a face. I gotta let you know, we may not be streaming video this week.
What?
And not my fault,
Oh, really?
but
It's Kishore's fault?
No, but we could have internet bandwidth problems, or there could be a problem with our mixer. I've been.
This is what happens when you stream this show over AT&T's unlimited plan.
That's right. Oh, I bet that would have
That's
been
funny.
better if we had done that. All
right.
But the audio is preserved, so the podcast is going out for sure. But for the VR minute this week, Gear VR, which unfortunately, Jeremy, you weren't here last week. We talked about the launch of Gear VR. The quote unquote consumer version is out now, $99. If you can find it, it's been in very short supply. Best Buy is probably the best place if you can find a pre-order in a
Markups
store.
on eBay are 200%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's not as high as the markup for the Apple Pencil.
Is that true?
500%.
No.
$500 for Apple Pencil.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, talk about mismanagement of supply and demand. So Gear VR is out. I don't have the new one. I've been using the GS6 Innovative Edition, which is totally fine. It's the same software. Brought it to Thanksgiving dinner. Everyone loved it. Blew the mind of my parents away. My mom got really excited.
Was it
about
their
sharing
first VR experience?
My parents had used DK1 before, but this being there's more content here. They love the 360 video. That Cirque du Soleil demo. Love it.
I haven't seen that yet.
It's like a short little experience. Yeah, they use like I'm not sure if the jaunt camera, but it's one of those Chris Milk 360 designs.
Didn't you say your dad shushed the audience?
Yeah, so in the Cirque du Soleil
That's funny.
experience demo, which is like you're sitting in the front row or on stage actually, and then the circus performers come and they actually sit next to you. So there are a few performers sitting next to you, and then there's a whole aerial performance, and you're hearing surround sound. So the performers next to you are oohing and eyeing, and kind of if you look at them, they're like, oh, look at this, and and so my dad's like, hush, hush, I'm trying to watch performance. Yeah, so he got really engaged with it.
So is there a spatial audio for it if you wear headphones?
Yeah.
You turn and it moves?
Mhm.
That's cool.
But the big news for Gear VR and Samsung is that they released a web browser,
Yep.
Samsung Internet.
I
is
didn't
what they're
realize it
calling
wasn't a web browser.
No native web browser. It's still in beta right now, but the Samsung Internet is a rectangle on a square, actually, I believe, in your field of view, in a blank space. There's no like cinema or anything that you're viewing it as a background, and it's pretty robust. You can type in URLs with voice search or an on-screen keyboard, a HUD, which you just use head look and tap the touchpad. You can browse. It supports HTML5 video, so you can actually.
Oh, that's pretty good.
This is the way to watch YouTube with Gear VR. A big deal out of Oculus Connect was that there would be no native YouTube support in Gear VR in the Oculus Video application. They had partnerships with Twitch and Vimeo and Lionsgate for video content, but you couldn't load your own content and you couldn't watch YouTube. Now, Google has made YouTube a big part of Google Cardboard, the Cardboard experience, and they in that interface you see like a tiled YouTube screen, but here you can have quote unquote full screen video. It works with the side by side 3D.
When you say full screen, it just means that it fills a larger rectangle that's in front of you.
Yes, IMAX.
Yeah,
which I think is a great way to use headsets, VR headsets. Simulating watching a really big theater. It's limited by the resolution of the headset and the phone. 360 video, panoramic streaming video works. The bitrate's kind of low on YouTube right now. Stereoscopic video works as long as it's left and right stereoscopic, not top down. And you can browse the internet. The text is readable. It's really legible. You're getting mobile sites, but you can still load the desktop site. There are tabs you can open. There are bookmarks you can save.
The touchpad scrolls both vertically and horizontally across the page, so it works pretty well.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what that experience is like just of watching a page load, though. Is it disorienting at all, or is it?
Not at all. I mean, it really is. It's adapting an old media, your content in a rectangle to.
It doesn't fill your peripheral. I mean, it's like a box.
I know it's just a big box,
right?
But it's like watching a page load in VR sounds like it would be like disconcerting a little bit, even though I know it's not full vision.
It's satisfactory in the sense that it works, and this is how we understand internet. But just as we were talking earlier about the content being right for the platforms, whether it's the smartphone screen or the desktop. Well, for headsets, the way people are going to create content is going to have to be different, and display content. I don't think it's going to be necessarily the floating rectangle for reading text. There's going to be more interesting ways to enjoy written and images and written text and images and video.
The one thing I was really wondering about the new Gear VR is just going to be the heat, especially with like YouTube watching HTML5. What if you can actually start to feel that come through the goggles, because a couple times when I used it in 360 video, I started to feel that and I started to get uncomfortable.
Yeah, the Note 4 had some heat problems, and so that would overheat when you're playing games. In rendering the video, it doesn't overheat but does drain a lot of power. There's a charger pass-through built in, and there is a small fan in there, but the fan actually is for defogging and not for cooling the phone down. So you do feel a little bit. I don't think it's not going to burn your retinas or your face while wearing it. But I think the web browser is a really interesting thing, and it's a really interesting. It's a novel workaround for not having native YouTube content. And searching was really easy. You load up YouTube, use a voice search, watch test videos in VR.
Yep.
Maybe not.
360 video. If we don't want to call it VR.
Right. It's important. There was a Wired article about that.
Semantics. Any other bits from the VR Minute? Is there any other VR news, Jeremy? You usually keep your finger on the pulse of VR news.
I didn't see anything. No. I mean, there's a lot of apps that have come out for this recently that get in reviews. I can't wait to try it. I don't have a a Gear VR, but you're gonna let me one in a week.
Yeah. I think right now a lot of developers who are making games or other experiences are really getting hung up on the room scale locomotion solution.
Yeah.
I see a lot of videos of developers like, here's our solution. Here's our solution. You know, things from jumping to third person and then switching from third to first person to things like snap locomotion where you're moving and then it jumps you forward just a little bit. I don't think that it might be trying to solve a problem that doesn't need to be solved, or and to try to adapt a world scale game to a room scale VR kind of negates the point of the one-to-one tracking.
What do you mean 1-to-1?
I think
You don't mean positional tracking.
I mean room scale, like having one-to-one positional tracking
okay.
of your body.
Well, that's not Gear VR then.
No, not
Yeah.
Gear VR. I'm just talking about in Steam VR,
Yeah.
Oculus. I think you want to build the content as opposed to building content that's outside the functionality and the parameters of the device.
Mhm.
I think it's better to just build the content around the
Yeah.
features set of the device.
Sounds like some people have done a good job at that for the Gear VR. I mean,
Yes.
that's where all the commercial stuff is right now. Everything for the DK2 is still all in development. You know, it's all.
Well, I'm saying for those stuff that's in development, like people are hoping come
Yeah.
next year when people have Steam VR devices and when people have the Oculus consumer version, they're going to want your GTA. They're going to want your people are already adapting for DK2, you know, Fallout for the headset.
I don't know.
And I don't think that's going to be the best stuff.
What people want is not what they need. It's like the old Henry Ford quote about like if he had asked them people what they want, they'd want a faster horse.
Yeah, and people right now want open world games.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not going to be the best solution.
Oculus is making a special announcement tomorrow
Oh, I know.
during the Game Awards. What are the Game Awards? That's not Spike TV, is it?
I bet I think
Is Palmer actually making the
Probably, but it's not pre-orders.
Oh, that's what I would have guessed.
Yeah, that's
What do you think? What do you think it is then? Can we speculate?
Could be price.
You can't announce price and not pre-orders.
Could be like a software that's going to come out, like first-party software. I don't know. It's special though. And there's also a video short you should watch called Uncanny Valley.
Oh, I saw that.
Do you like it?
It was really nicely produced.
Yeah. Dark.
Very dark. Very pessimistic.
It's a pessimistic view of VR.
Of the future of
Yeah,
VR.
but you know,
You want to describe it for
No.
Kishore and people?
no, it's a surprise.
All right, go search for it.
Uncanny Valley.
It's on Vimeo called Uncanny Valley. It's really nicely produced. I'm really curious. What if the announcement
Mhm.
tomorrow is touch is going to be at launch?
No. That stuff, they can't just speed that up. Manufacturing's too hard, and it's out of their hands. They can't control it.
I'm just being optimistic.
That would be great because, as I have always said, Vive is going to have a one-up on Oculus because they are shipping motion controllers with their device.
Well,
That is the built-in peripheral. People who are developing for Oculus, they're going to be, developing for gamepad.
I'm
Well-
gonna hope that it's a partnership with YouTube,
To do what? To do what?
so they could have YouTube
Native
content
YouTube content?
on Oculus.
I suppose.
Vive's already missing. It's shortening its lead. Like the lead time on release.
Yep.
It was supposed to come out.
So I'm telling you, you can't control this stuff. Things
Yeah.
slip. They don't get earlier.
And I guess is that it for news and discussions? Oh, so last week we talked about the FAA and the task force recommendations. Our RC columnist Terry Dunn actually wrote a really great piece that's on tested right now. You should read it, clarifying some points of what that task force recommendation is and how they came to that 250 gram mark. So, Jeremy, I don't know if you've been following this, but the Department of Transportation commissioned a drone task force to create a series of registration recommendations. And last week, this task force announced that, okay, here's our recommendations. And it's not law right now. These are just recommendations,
Mhm.
and the FAA has to approve them. But it would be to register any device that's from 250 grams and up, which is a majority of quadcopters. Even there's small
Pretty
ones
much
for your
any
kids.
any drone you have, except the little nano ones.
Right.
Register anything.
Basically anything. And the way they came to this was with this complicated mathematical formula of looking at population density to weight and speed of devices, to max speed of devices and power of motors, to like how like the risk of falling out of the sky. It's like this long series of math equations
Mhm.
that got them to this weight with a bunch of assumptions about power associated with weight
Okay.
and where people would be flying. It's it seems really, really forced, like this benchmark,
Mhm.
250 grams, um, and there's no way to enforce it. They said they wanted to make it easy for people to sign up, where you can just go to a website and just register the one time, and you'd have to present your license information if any law enforcement agency went to you and approached you, for
Right.
example, if you're flying. But there's no way, and then the registration information would be visible on the device, a readable number on it, not from afar, but up close if it falls somewhere. But there's no way really to enforce. Like there's no.
Well, there would
unless
be
you-
penalties if you didn't, right? Like if it fell out of the sky, authorities got a hold of it to track you down.
exactly
You could be fined.
right.
But we get all those great videos of people like recording law enforcement coming up to them asking for license and registration.
Yeah.
License and registration, please, for my quad.
I don't know. I read that, I don't know if it was a official suggestion, but the suggestion was people should have to register themselves as pilots, but not necessarily register every device that they own. I like that idea.
And get registered and certified.
Right, exactly.
Do your driver's ed course.
Yep.
Answer all the questions.
Yep.
Do you think you could pass that?
Oh, I would enjoy it. Yeah, absolutely. Give me any obstacle course. I would enjoy doing that, regardless of whether.
Oh, not just the multiple choice. You want the
I want to do the test drive.
You want a
want a
written
test
and
yeah,
driving test.
I want the advanced level.
flight. You want the flight test.
Yeah.
You want the parallel parking. What is the equivalent of parallel parking for flying a quadcopter?
Like through a hula hoop.
I
And
think
do you bring your own quad? Like you bring your own car?
yes. I think it's somewhere in the figure eight territory, like actually yawing and steering rather than dealing with always facing away from you. So you're just dealing with strafing, actually steering from the perspective of the quad and maintaining that perspective.
Where would they do that?
I like the idea of a drone DMV though, just like out in like the middle of nowhere.
Oh my god!
Where they'd have like
long
a field.
lines. Yeah, no, you bring your own quad. Make sure it's all powered. You have to do your checklist
Mhm.
beforehand. Show that you've checked everything and you've done all your pre-flight and post-flight.
Sounds great.
There'd be like one power outlet and a bunch of unhappy people like
Right.
trying to charge their quad.
You have 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes to complete the course and do your pirouetting and figure eight and
The whole business behind training people for that too. People who fail, they have to go to class.
a safe way flying school.
Don't they have comedy traffic school? Maybe they can have comedy drone driving.
Oh, that's
school.
right. That's fantastic. Can you describe what that is?
What comedy traffic school? I've
Yeah.
never gone to it. I've only heard about it.
Don't people like go and take traffic school who are required to, but it's also a comedy show?
Yeah, exactly.
It's great.
What?
Brilliant.
What is the equivalent of red asphalt for quads?
Oh, I thought you were telling a joke.
No, it's not a joke at all. Do you guys know what red asphalt is?
No,
No.
Maybe when did you guys get your driver's licenses? Like,
I don't know.
so when I got mine in the I guess early thousands now, they made everyone in driver's ed watch this terrible video,
Oh,
red asphalt, and
Mhm.
it's the horror stories of what happens when you get in a car accident.
Oh, that would be blood on the asphalt, causing it to be
Yes.
red.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
and it was gruesome, and it was to scare you, and it did. Like those images are burned in my head. I'm trying to not even visualize them right
Jeez.
now, but they were effective.
Mhm.
And even like those videos were probably filmed in the 80s or 90s because
Mhm.
it was on VHS back then. I'm sure there's the new version of it now. But what would be the thing to scare pilots? Would you show them a video?
there was a report about a drone breaking apart and a blade hitting somebody in the eyeball.
A child
A
in
child,
the
yeah.
eyeball recently.
So I think that might do it.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a good one.
Drone blade in the eyeball will do it. for
I
me.
guarantee you the internet is full of people who would be prepared to do a bidding war to make that video. That sounds like something that people would enjoy making.
Oh, God, sounds terrible. Terrible. But to be a responsible pilot, one of the things we are recommending is that you carry a flight log with you, that you document as much you can about your flights to show you to be responsible for it. And
If only there was a way to do that.
I know. If only you could have, if only there was a pre-made flight log that you could get. We've actually just released one in partnership with Field Notes. Field Notes came to us when we made that video last year with Adam about his, maybe it was earlier this year, with Adam and his quadcopter, his Inspire 1, and the custom gear he made for it. From the battery charger, the gang charger, to his little flight, his takeoff, and his what was that, a platform he built?
Yeah.
And also
landing pad.
Yes, the landing pad, and also the flight log that he custom made. Well, it was very much like one of those Field Notes pocket memo books, and so Field Notes work with Adam and us to make one, and you can get them today, like a 3-pack of them. There are 48 pages with all the checklists for your pre-flight and post-flight, and spaces to enter all the data relevant to your flight, from duration to battery to weather to location. And each book, I think, has enough spaces for about 23 entries for 23 flights. So a pack of 3 will last you for a while. But they're available. I'm glad we're able to make it happen, and thank Field Notes for reaching out to us.
Where are they available?
Fieldnotes.com.
Right
I
on.
want to say /flight log is possibly it, but if you Google search or check on Tested, we have a link on the site as well. So that does it for news, and let's play some transition music and get to what we've been testing. Now, I know you guys bought, or Kishore, you bought a lot of gear over the holidays. Have you been testing any of it, using any of it? Have anything to share?
I'm waiting for the gaming PC pieces to come. That's next for me. I bought the components for a gaming PC that can run Oculus next year.
Very
Right.
nice.
He didn't follow our
I
recommendation.
didn't follow the recommendations and
He
wait.
bought something this holiday as opposed to waiting.
That's probably not a bad idea.
He wants to play Battlefront.
I do want to play Battlefront real bad.
Yeah.
It's a pretty game.
I've been playing some Battlefront. It is a very pretty game. I will give you that.
There's not much
Oh,
to
that's
it. I've stopped playing because there's just not much there. There's only 4 maps.
Oh, really?
I mean, the maps are big and they're scaled to use. They use them in different ways. Like there's a smaller version of each map for the hero battles. There's the Walker Assault for a couple of maps, which is a really cool mode. But there really only is 4 maps.
So it hasn't even turned into like Counter-Strike, where you can where the replayability is high.
I think it's a really fun game to jump in, and if you're not overly competitive, to play for 15 minutes to half an hour and have some fun, blow off some steam. But it's not a game to play.
No. You guys are ruining my Christmas.
4 hours at a time.
No, if you're a Star Wars fan,
Yeah.
and I know you are, you will love it because it is it's the most beautiful Star Wars game that's ever been made. I mean, honestly, it's like graphics that I didn't know were possible. It's like stunning. Is that pre-rendered or is that real time? It's like that level of realism.
And there are graphics mod to make it look even better.
There's mods out for it?
There's someone that's modded it. It's not officially out yet, but the screen grabs make it look even better. Higher res textures, better lighting for
All
everything.
enemy combatants are Jar Jar.
No, it takes a 30% performance hit, but it looks so good.
Yeah, I
even
mean,
the screen
when you
grabs.
first get in there, you're going to be of no use to your team because you're just going to be admiring the X-Wings that have crashed into the ground. And
I'm pretty much going to be like that for most of the game.
But as far as the gameplay goes, I don't know. It's not. It's hard for me to talk about it at all without comparing it to Overwatch because I was lucky enough to get into this stress test beta last week, and it's just completely different. There's no sense of humor to the game whatsoever. I mean, there's a few emotes that are funny, but
You're
there's
talking about Battlefront?
Yeah.
Battlefront, no humor, but Overwatch, lots of humor.
lots of humor.
Personality.
Yeah, totally different levels of personality and just levels of fun. And in Battlefront, it's all based on everyone's a human running around. Generally, you have access to the same weapons, but you have to unlock them. So you have to play long enough to level up your character and earn credits that you can buy things with. So the longer you play, the more powerful you are, which is difficult when you first step into the game. And it turns the game into a grind, which is, I understand that from a role-playing aspect, and that can be enjoyable, but Overwatch, on the other hand, just gives you everything all at once, and that's very much, they realized that made the game better, and that they weren't going to do a free-to-play kind of approach to the game because they wanted everyone to be on equal ground.
I don't mind that it's a grind. I just wish there's more to grind.
Yeah.
4 maps, not enough. And I know they're doing the season pass stuff where they're going to have more.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this is a $60 dice game,
True.
right? Like, this is, compared to what you got from when they released Battlefield 2 or 3, I just feel like there's not enough there.
Yeah.
Thanks for ruining Christmas, guys.
You can still enjoy
No,
it.
I still it'll be fun.
What else have you been testing, Jeremy?
I Overwatch is awesome.
Okay.
I can't wait for this game to come out. There's no NDA with this beta, so it's not a problem. People were allowed to stream it, talk about it, whatever. It's 21 characters in a TF2 style game, but all 21 characters are very, very different. Each one is in one of 4 classes where you're either a offense, defense, support, or tank.
Mm-hmm.
And so you tend to divide your team up and so that you cover all bases, but it's just it's brilliantly designed. Every character looks like they could have a fascinating backstory. Like the bomber guy has a peg leg and he's just totally crazy. There's a female character who drives a mech and she approaches the game as if it's a video game and it's funny. And like when you get killed in her mech, you survive. You hop out, the mech gets destroyed, and then you have like a last ditch effort to shoot your opponents enough times so that you charge up your special meter, and if you do, you get a new mech back. So it's almost like you can reincarnate yourself. And there's 21 characters that are all as unique, and some characters can fly, so there's some verticality to it. With jump jets, there's any type of character that you can play that you have played in the past. You probably can find the one that you will specialize in. There's the rocket launcher guy who's just like called Soldier, or no, actually he doesn't have a rocket. Anyway, it's phenomenally fun. I can't wait for it to come out. It's going to be a hard 6-month wait. I just had the most fun playing that I've had in a long time. We used to play TF2 together.
Yeah.
It's very much in the same vein, except with a lot more variety in characters.
Cool. I'm excited. I didn't realize there's so many characters.
I didn't either.
It really feels like that the Dota style where it's really the design of so much and the balance needs to be so right.
And that's Blizzard's behind it, and the very few companies that have the level of polish that Blizzard has. When you finish a match, one character is chosen as the play of the game, and everybody who was in the match, your character takes over their screen. Your name gets printed on the screen in big bold letters in this beautiful font, and then everyone watches a 5-second replay where you pulled off an amazing maneuver.
Wow.
And it's just that whole thing that ramps it up. At the end of every match, you can award the best players like for doing well, and then they can, if you enough people award them, they get like epic, and it's pretty awesome.
Very cool. In the lab here, we've been testing the Form 2, which is actually just shipped. This is the SLA printer from Form Labs. Sean Charlesworth is actually in the other room right now, printing with it and tinkering with it. And the prints we've got from it, we talked about last week, have been amazing. We actually just tried putting out a massive ZF1 replica that we got from Thingiverse, and it looked great. A lot of interesting lessons learned from it. It's the first printer that made me really want a printer to maybe print stuff and put on Etsy or something, because what comes out of it is like is finished quality.
It looks molded. It looks like injection molded.
Yeah.
It's very hard to discern the layers.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And we'll have more stuff on this show and this podcast and the site in the next weeks. We're all kind of recovering from Thanksgiving and travel. Where can people find you guys? Kishore?
I have a weekly science podcast called Inquiring Minds. You can go to motherjones.com/inquiring minds to listen. I think this week, actually next week, I interviewed a researcher talking about violence in video games and impacts on people.
Is that still in question?
Not according to this guy.
All right.
And then on the Twitters @ScienceKish.
Right on. I'm like right behind you in terms of followers. I've been chasing you for a while.
This is a really poor chase.
Yep.
Like we're basically like what,
No,
like 1,800 followers or something.
Compared to him, you're right. We're small potatoes.
Yeah, maybe this is the new hot game of 2016. Jareware versus Science Quiche.
Build up those Instagram followers. That's where it's at right now.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, thank you guys both for appearing this week, and thank you guys out there for listening to the podcast. Apologies for no video this week. Our TriCaster conked out, the upstream conked out midway. So maybe I'll just put this on YouTube with like puppy videos or something.
Okay.
I gotta get Will to send me some videos of Chloe Bananas that we can put on top of this podcast, on top of the audio, or a public domain NASA video of rockets launches, successful rocket launches. That would be appropriate. Anyway, this week's outro comes from AKA Gajba. And we'll see you guys next week.
Hi there, I didn't see you.
Tested. The beer was warm, the popcorn was cold. I was just sad. Tested.